let's talk about the lines a little bit. So see, I can see right now that Jennifer's lines on her ruler are much thinner than the lines on my ruler. Okay, so if I were to come over and use Jennifer's ruler, I'd be off a thread.
It's safety first, so make sure you don't expose the blade until you're ready to use it.
She's talking about a rotary cutter.
So I've on this one I just have to push it down with my thumb. Now it's exposed. Yeah,
Okay.
Times 4. So I cut that one, and then I move my ruler. I pick my ruler up and I go to the next.
She's looking at this end.
Measurement, and
She
the
has to
next
remember what that
multiple is 7.5. So I put my ruler on 7.5.
It'd take me a half an hour to figure that out. Plus, I'd have to get my calculator.
And I make a cut, and then it's over here at 5. And
by that time, I could have had 40 2.5-inch squares already cut. Jennifer, you're wearing the same clothes you wore last week.
Hi, neighbor.
Hi, neighbor.
It shouldn't surprise you that we're wearing the same clothes as last time because we're filming this at the same day.
Right.
Thanks for pointing that out, Dawn.
You're welcome. Because everybody's going to be at home going, you wore those clothes all week?
Anyway, we digress.
Yes, we do.
Welcome back to part 3 on our series that is covering cutting accurately.
Cutting accurately.
There was just so much to talk about in the last video that we decided to film a third segment. And before we get back to the topic of cutting accurately, which is very important, I have another show and tell.
She has a show and tell, of course.
And I put this object back here so that I would remember to show it to you, and then totally spaced. And Dawn tried to give me some little clues. Hey, don't you have something else you want to show? Went right over my head. I totally forgot. Dawn brought me a gift, and I love it. It is, let me bring it out.
A board with owls on it.
It's a board with owls on it because I've always dreamt of a board with owls. It is a pressing board. Remember last time we talked about our various pressing areas, and one of the things that came up was that I am struggling with trying to find a big pressing area, and whenever I have to press anything that's bigger than just like a yard of fabric, I will get out my ironing board. Well, Dawn had this, and apparently it's been sitting, see there, apparently it's been sitting in her, in your sewing room, just being sad. She bought it because it was awesome, cute, and thought she would have a use for it. And I guess she just never really...
I never did. I have my other set up, and I love it. And this was just like in the way. And when I saw your sewing set up, and I saw that table that it would fit right on top of.
It's gonna be so perfect. It's like been my dream to have
I knew
this.
you would give it a good home, so...
So thank you, Dawn.
You're welcome.
You're a sweetie pie. And so anyway, so it's going to be in the back of the video.
For today, but then it's going to go up in her sewing room.
And then it's going upstairs. But, so you can be jelly if you want.
Yeah.
But, I am... She's
oh, that's us.
It really solves a huge problem that I've had in terms of pressing. So
and she'll give it a good home, so I'll know that it's...
I'll take very good care of
it. Well, it's yours. You can do with it what you want.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will.
Okay.
It's going upstairs today, baby.
Okay. Tools.
So, tools. Let's recap a little bit of what we talked about in the first video, which was various rotary cutters. Your standard rotary cutter is 45 millimeter.
That's how big this blade is.
This is an OFA and happens to be the kind that I like, but there's lots of other manufacturers. This one is an ergonomic rotary cutter, which Dawn started using when she had injury to her hand. So if you're having any kinds of pains or whatever, don't work with pain, because it only gets worse. Instead, change your methodology. And if your methodology means doing cutting with a more ergonomic rotary cutter, I would do that. And it's by Martelli. And I have one too that I got at a quilt show and haven't really used because I don't have an issue, but I thought I should have it because I just was really fascinated by that. There are larger rotary cutters. This is the 60 millimeter. And it's appropriate when you're cutting through thick fabric or lots of layers. It will give you a better, cleaner cut because there's more cutting surface. And then this, in contrast, is I believe it's a 20 millimeter.
28, I believe. Is
28.
it 28?
And thank you,
You're
because I
welcome.
couldn't remember. And it's appropriate for cutting very small things. So, like, I got it for cutting circles, small
Precision cutting.
precision cutting small.
Right. If you need to turn, if you need to get into small spaces, it's good.
Yeah. So it's nice to have a complete set at hand for you to use. And then there are some specialty blades that you can get. Again, I fall victim of fear of missing out, FMO.
Right.
So I was at a show and saw these. This will give me a pinking edge using my Rotary Cutter, and this will get me a scalloped edge. So they're decorative, but...
And she needed them so bad you can see how much she's used them. They're still in the package. I think the date is 1804. So
1804 is not... But I had to have them. I don't know why, but
I'm making fun of her, but you're going to see in a few minutes. I got the very same thing.
It seemed like something I had to have.
Yeah.
And then we also talked about the Klutz gloves.
Yeah. See, I've never seen that. I mean, I've seen them advertised, but I've never seen one in person.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
It is. And if you have a fear of the Rotary Cutter, or if you're going to be teaching an older person with less stability or a very young person with less stability, this can make them a little bit more safe because it's a cutter resistant. So it's a nice little thing. And you
kind of reminds me of the UV glove.
Yeah.
You can't get burnt.
Which you can't get burnt. And
right.
It's for all I know, it's made
new technology, way beyond what we know about.
When you transport your Rotary cutters from one place to another, here's a nice little container that you can use. I've got several Rotary cutters in here. I keep this in my travel bag, the one that I take to classes or to retreats. So it's a nice way of kind of keeping it safe. I mean, the blade's closed, but if it should accidentally, come loose.
You don't want it cutting up your bag.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, we also talked about lots of different kinds of rulers.
We did.
And Dawn likes the creative grids. I favor the Quilters Select, but you can use what you want. I used to have the... I still do have the Omni Grid rulers, but they do slip a little bit. So there's ways of trying to get them not to slip. You may have found these. These are little clear discs with a glue that you can stick to the back of your rulers in the corners, and that will prevent them from slipping. You can also put them like halfway up or whatever on the edges.
They're pretty thick, though.
Yeah, they are. These are sandpaper grips. They do the same kind of thing. They have a little glue on the back. And
can't see through them.
No, you can't. So it's not the best solution. I don't know if they still sell this, but Omni Grid, probably realizing that their rulers slip a lot, sells something called Invisigrip, which is like this plastic stuff that you just peel and put on the back of your ruler.
It's not sticky. It's staticky cling. That's how it stays on through static cling. It's not sticky, is it?
You're right. It's a static cling, and you want to cut it to the size of your ruler. But anyway, so Invisigrip is another thing you can use to reduce the slickness. Something else that we sold at the quilt shop where I used to work it's by Otif, and it's called Grippy. It's a spray, and you spray it on the back of your ruler, and it will create that etched surface. Now, we tested it, and it did not gum up the ruler. It did not make it cloudy so you couldn't read as a matter of fact, it was kind of invisible.
Does it smell?
It does smell. So you would want to take it outside and spray it if you wanted to, because it's chemicals for sure. But that's another thing that you can investigate for preventing your rulers from slipping.
My rulers, I don't have a problem with them slipping because they have the grippers on them. But if I buy a template, so there's a difference between rulers and templates. Templates have a specific shape, a specific purpose. Rulers are for cutting increments, strips.
Cutting rectangles and squares.
Increments.
Yeah.
That's what I call them. So what I use on my templates is this, and it's called True Grips. It's by True Cut, and what I love about it is comes like this. You get a little sheet of paper that tells you all about it. And then it comes like this, and they're little donut-shaped rings. But they're very thin. They're very thin. And you can see through them. They're so thin, I don't even know if you can see it or not. But they're very thin. And what I like when you put it on your ruler, you always put it on the back, of course, because it's keeping you from sliding, is I can use this whole thing. I can use the donut shape. If I'm a little bitty template, I can use the little round center. And then I've been known to even use the negative space because it's all the same grippy material. So I really like these because they really keep it from sliding.
And that's important. It's also important if you happen to, I'm kind of digressing a bit here, but if you buy rulers like I do to help you with quilting at home, these are also acrylic rulers, but you can use them with your home sewing machine, but you have to have a special ruler foot to use with them, and they're thicker than these, and the ruler foot rides right along the ruler, giving you a nice straight edge.
What are you talking about?
Quilting rulers.
Rulers that actually are putting the 3 layers together and going through all 3 layers?
Yeah, when you're machine quilting your quilt, you
were way off. I had no clue what you were talking about. Okay, now I know what you're
track there. But
yeah.
those will also slip. So my point was
right.
These,
because they're not rulers, they're templates.
Yeah, they're acrylic
templates because they're not measuring anything. Right?
You're right. I mean, they're measuring the distance between one quilting line and another, but they're called quilting rulers.
With them.
But
they are called quilting rulers.
Yeah, but
okay,
but we can call them templates because I agree that is a better word.
I think it is
to describe what they are.
She can call them rulers. I'll call them templates, and then we're both happy. Okay, let's go on.
So, let's talk about a very extremely popular ruler that you brought to demonstrate, called the Stripology rulers.
I love my Stripology, and of course it's made by Creative Grid again, and it's kind of a new fangled thing. It's this ruler that has all these little slots. There's lines, but there's slots in between. I hope you can see that up. I'm looking at this one up here. Yeah. So see how it's got all these little slots in it. And your blade is going to ride between those. And it has all these measurements, and you can only really cut 1/2 inch increments with this, okay? So if you're cutting 1/8, like 2 1/8, this is useless. You got to go to your ruler, okay?
I thought there was another Stripology ruler.
There are other ones. Okay. There are other ones.
So for this particular one.
This particular one, which is the large, the extra large, I think. It's called...
Yeah, is it the XL?
Oh, this one, no, half cut size blocks. It's the XL, yeah. Stripology XL ruler.
So you can cut whole or half increments.
Right. But what I love about it, last video you were talking about all this brain figuring out, what was that called? Fast cutting?
Power cutting.
Power cutting.
Yeah, I cut at 10 and
this is my answer to power cutting, because down here are these little symbols, a square and a star. So it's not hard to think 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch if you're just cutting inch strips. Mm-hmm. But if you're cutting 2 1/2 or 1.5 inch strips, you got to think. I got to go 1, then I got to go 1 over. Well, every star is a 1/2 inch, is a 1.5 inch strip. So all I have to do is go along and just cut with these stars.
And the squares are 2.
And the squares are 2.5. So no thinking. And I'm not, and all the bulk of my fabric is underneath my ruler, and I don't have to think, which is a plus.
You're not even moving.
And I'm not moving anything. I'm not moving anything. So
the only thing you're doing is is moving the lifting the rotary cutter and cutting.
Right. So let's say my edge wasn't squared off, which it is because we just squared it off at the last video. But let's say it's not. We've got a 0 line here, a 0 cutting edge. And then we also have this long horizontal line that we line up with our fold. And we go up here and we find another long horizontal line to put on our fold. And that is completely straight. Now, this is where my iron comes back in. What do we do with my iron? This is a long ruler. And it's not very stable because it has all those slots in it. Okay?
Yeah, it's not whole.
Yeah, it's not whole.
It's wholly.
It's wholly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my iron again, my 6-pound iron. You could even get weights. You know, those dumbbell weights. You could get those.
Like I said, dressmaker weights.
Right.
Probably at the big box store.
Right.
Probably find them.
So here in my ruler are these teardrop wide open areas that I'm going to lay my blade down in. And your blade can't be crooked. It can't be lean this way. It can't lean that way. It has to be straight like this.
And that's how you should cut.
All the time, yeah. So I'm going to release my blade. If you will allow me to scoot you out.
I will switch over here.
That's fine. Like we're
so
dancing.
I can watch.
Okay, like we're
and
dancing.
And will be unencumbered by me.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to lay that down right in that little teardrop shape. And with my hand, I'm just going to... Now, this would be a perfect time to be wearing this glove. I'm going to buy me one of these gloves. Where'd you get this? At the quilt shop?
I did a long time ago when they sold them. I hope
they still have green ones because I really like it.
I don't know if our quilt shop still sells them, but there are sources.
Okay. Well, this would be awesome for this because you don't want to cut your fingers.
No.
And for this first cut, you have to get really
You have to get, oh my goodness, you have to get really close.
Uh-huh.
And that's the 0 line. So what you're doing there is evening it up,
straightening the edge.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
When I go with the 0, I'm straightening the edge. Now, from the 0, I can go 1 inch. I can go every 2 inches. It's not hard to think 2 inches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. You know, I mean, that's pretty...
I could do that in my hand.
Yeah, I think I can, even with my shoes on. And so, I don't need my toes to help me count. But if I want to go 1.5, I'm going to look at the stars. So let's say I need, and I've got my hands here again, I need 3 strips that are 1.5. So there was 1, there's 2.
She's just moving over 3. To the next star.
And I'm just moving to these stars.
So you're not even having to think that it's 1.5, 3,
not having
and
to think,
4.5.
Yeah, because I couldn't do that. Because I'd think 1.5.
I know you could.
Then 1.5 plus 1.5. 1 is 2, 2.5, 3. I mean, I'd be just like
really
calculating in my head.
But with the stars, man, it's fast.
Yeah. And then, so I've cut 3. So that's 1.5 times 3, which gives me 5. Does it get, no, it gives me 4.5. So now let's say I want to cut, well, I'm going to cut 1 more just so it's at 6. 1 more. So there's 4 1.5 inch strips. Now I need to cut some 2.5 inch strips. Okay?
So now you're going to pay attention to that square.
Yes. So now the square. Only this is only going to give me a 2 inch one because I didn't start with 0. Let's just pretend I'm at 2.5. And now I'm just going to go every star.
Every star or every square?
Every square, sorry. Every square.
There we go.
Let's cut this square. And now I'm cutting 2.5 inch strips.
So it's neat that you can switch, once you remember which symbol you're going for.
Exactly.
You can easily switch to different sizes as well. Strips.
Exactly. Now, it only goes to 20 inches. Okay? But this is what's so awesome. Now I want squares.
Oh yeah, I've seen this.
Have you seen this?
I have.
So I'm going to line my ruler up. I'm going to bring it, you know what, instead of moving my ruler, I'm going to move my mat.
I was just going to suggest that.
I'm going to turn my mat and then leave my ruler the same. I'm going to come over here to 0 and I'm going to put the 0 just a little bit beyond my fold to this side of my fold. And I'm going to get it on that horizontal line again. line that baby up.
Do you want this?
Yes, I do. I've always put it down, even if I'm not even cutting over here, I've always got it down, okay? And now I'm going to cut my straight edge again. It only goes so far, so,
yeah.
So it's only going to cut so many rows. And then I'm going to go 1.5. So every stalk. And when I get to the end, I'm going to just kind of lift up like that.
And so, really, in a matter of moments, she's going to have not just her with the fabric strips, but she's going to have the subcuts done as well. And all in a very stable, I haven't shifted my fabric kind of way. So just like brilliant. Brilliant. And of course you use a lot of 1.5 inch squares.
I do. Because I'm always sewing small. So in Lickety Split, you know, I have tons of 1.5 inch squares. And then where I cut the 2.5 inch strips, I have 2.5 by 1.5. If I didn't want to cut these 2.5 inch strips, I could have removed them.
Yeah.
But this makes great flying geese. You take this and a different fabric, put that on the edge.
The front corner, where you sew on the diagonal.
And then you can have, so in a matter of minutes, seconds even, you have, you know, cut 350 or 800 or whatever squares, whatever size you want them, 1.5, 2.5, 5, whatever you want.
Now, these are pricey, which is why I haven't bought
Very
one yet.
Expensive.
Wow, seeing this demo, it's like the price. It's worth the price of admission, isn't it?
Yeah. So let's say I want to cut every 3.5, and there's no markings for 3.5, right? Mm-hmm. So I have these little arrows. They're stickers. Thank you. They're stickers. They look like this. They come off. They're reusable. You can see them on my ruler. So if I want to do every 3.5, I only have to think about it once. So I've got 3.5 and 3.5. So there's the first one. Well, I can see 3.5. So I'm going to go 3.5 and 3.5, 7, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to put one at 7. And then what's plus 3.5?
10.5.
10.5. I've already got one there. And then what's 10.5 plus 3.5?
14.
11, 14.
Which
so see,
is what you've been
I've
doing.
already been doing that because I wanted to cut a 3.5. And then I know I can just go 3.5, 7. I don't have to think about it. I just have to look at my arrows.
Just has to follow the arrows.
Right. So I can make them in any increments, 1/2 inch or full inch, that I want just by if I don't have a symbol, I can make my own symbol. Pretty slick, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to know more about this Stripology ruler, it was designed by Goodwin of GE Designs, for now being manufactured by Creative Grids. And she does sew along. She shows you, she has lots of patterns and things that...
Lots of YouTube videos.
Lots of YouTube videos that show you how to use her rulers, and they're really like awesome.
Yeah, and Creative Grid also has a YouTube channel, and they have videos on almost every one of their rulers.
Because sometimes I will have a ruler of theirs, a specialty ruler of theirs, and I'll lose the instructions, and I'm like, how am I supposed to? It's supposed to help me make a square and a square or whatever. How do you do that?
Yeah.
They've got videos. It's great.
Yeah, it is great. So this is one ruler that gets a lot of use at my house because I do a lot of sewing for other people, and I'm making lots of quilts. So the faster I can get it cut, the faster I can get to sewing it, which is kind of silly because I get paid by the hour. So why am I? No, I'm just kidding. I don't get paid. I'm just kidding.
Stripology, by the way, comes in lots of different sizes. That was the XL. There are medium sizes. There are smaller sizes that I think the smaller one has the 1/8 increments that we were talking about earlier.
I use it for when I'm cutting scraps because it's a good one for like 5.5. It's made for cutting pre-cuts. So here's our mess. Woo, it's raining fabric. How fun is that?
It's done.
Okay.
Let's move this back.
Yeah,
around.
let's get that back around.
Now, speaking of which, to do rotary cutting, you need a rotary cutter. You need a ruler that is specifically designed for rotary cutting. So don't go using a metal ruler. Don't go using a wooden yardstick. Don't go using anything that isn't sold as a quilting ruler for cutting.
For rotary cutting.
Yeah, for rotary cutting. This is a larger mat by OmniGrid. It is, 24 by 36, so it's one of their larger ones. I really, really like it. I highly recommend getting the largest one you can afford.
And you can use both sides, even though
Yeah.
this one doesn't have lines on it.
We don't use the lines.
We
so
don't
who
use the
cares?
lines anyway, so you can get double life out of your
Yeah,
mat.
I just flip mine over. I don't care that it doesn't have lines.
Right.
And then this is probably your standard size, which is, 24 by 18?
I think so.
Yeah. So if you can't afford a really large one, get this. You will notice it's a self-healing, but after
Eventually.
years, it will get to a point where, it's not as good, and you can
But
just
it is.
flip it over and use the back.
Right.
Other kinds of mats. This is a portable mat. One side is appropriate for pressing. It's an ironing board. And the other side is a cutting mat. And the reason you might want something like this is if you're going to go to a class or a retreat or whatever, it's small. Or you're doing some cutting sitting down
Right.
by your sewing machine, you've got a cutting surface now.
Exactly.
And it's got little handles.
Love
One
these.
thing, I'm a big advocate for safety. If I'm trimming something, I do not advocate that if I was trimming this, that you do this and then cut across yourself like that. I don't think that's... She does. And she has yet to lose a finger.
That's right.
Knock wood.
But
not-
I would never do this. I would never come towards
and some people do
myself.
this kind of stuff.
Oh,
Yeah,
my friend
towards-
Tammy does that all the time. Gives me a heart attack. You do have no control. You
None,
have
zero.
no strength whatsoever in your arm because your strength is coming from your shoulder. So if you're cutting like this and you're cutting like that, it's a twist of the wrist. But if you're cutting like this, there is absolutely no control that you have cutting that way.
So
That is a no-no.
So what I do to prevent that is you use this is a turnstile, you use a rotating cutting mat. This was given to me at a retreat. It was like one of the gifts. And I like it well enough, except frankly, it's a little wobbly. This is another rotary rotating cutting mat that to me is a lot more stable. It's basically two pieces that fit inside each other, and just they meld to create this very stable surface that you can rotate. So if I was going to be trimming this like that, I could trim this side, and then rather than cutting across myself, I can just rotate and cut. And I can, if I had the ruler in the right spot, if I had a template or something that I was cutting to shape, I could, rotate the thing and cut all four sides. So a rotating cutting mat is a wonderful tool to have. You'll use it all the time when you're trimming up your blocks.
I use this mostly when I'm sitting, doing my sitting cutting.
So because
last time in the video we talked about
the level of safety that
Yes.
if you're doing that.
Yes,
That's a very good
exactly.
idea.
Exactly.
We were discussing the fact that you should probably cut standing up whenever possible because you're more stable that way than when you're sitting down and trying to
Right.
do. But if you're rotating the fabric on a
Correct.
mat, that's a good idea.
Correct. Now let's talk about, something we didn't talk about in the last video that I find is very important is the height of your table.
Oh, we didn't talk about
No,
that.
we didn't. And I think that
We
is
discussed
very...
it before the video started.
We did
and then
because
just
this
didn't say
table.
anything.
I came in and the table was low, and I said, "Oh, I wish I would have brought my
And I
higher
was like,
table."
I'd forgotten to use
Duh.
it.
All she did was take a regular table, and those bed risers that you can get for like, I don't know, you can get them at Goodwill for like $2.99 for a set. But
I got mine at Target during the back to college part because they sell them to college people so that they can raise their beds
and hide things
put
under
their desk underneath or store things underneath or whatever it is they're doing.
Yeah, they're not as high as a desk. So
no, I guess it would be a
desk.
desk.
Put their desk underneath their bed.
Yeah, you're right. But I don't know what I was thinking.
She's so silly.
The world's smallest desk. But they could use it to create more storage.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway, so they're just called risers.
Right.
risers. And they're these plastic things. And they will raise a stand. This is just a standard
You
folding
need 4
table.
of them. If your table has 4 legs. If your table has 6 legs, you'll have to have 6 of them. Because some tables have 2 legs in the middle.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
I was like, if your table has 4 legs. If it's got 3 legs...
Well, yeah, you just need 3.
I was lost there for a minute.
Okay.
Anyway, this is a standard folding table that I got at Costco, and then risers that I happened to get at Target. But like you were saying, snag them at Goodwill because that's a lot less expensive.
Yeah.
You just slip them under the each of the legs of your table, and it will raise it up. And it's important that it should be waist high.
Yeah. Now I have a custom one at home. Of course I do because my dad built it.
Yeah, your dad built it for you.
Yes, he's awesome. And my thought was I wanted my elbows to be at a 45-degree angle. So mine is just a little bit higher.
Yeah. And
the reason
mine should be higher as well.
And the reason being is because it's hard on your back to lean. Okay, so if I'm cutting here, I'm leaning a little bit. Now, it's not a significant amount, but if you're going to have a custom one built, do it to your, your level of your elbow.
Ergonomically, you want this. You want it to be straight.
Yeah.
90 degrees.
Yes. Oh, is that 90? I thought that was 45, but what do
45
I know?
would be like that.
Oh, okay. 90.
90.
Okay. So, yeah. Okay.
To the arm.
Yeah. Okay. So that's ideal, but this is
it's pretty good, and
this is common. This is common.
It's a very
comfortable,
easy to execute solution.
Right.
And inexpensive.
Right.
So
that's important.
That's what I've got. But I guess if I wanted to take it to the next level, I could put maybe some blocks of wood or something underneath the risers. And raise this table up just a little bit because it is slightly undersized.
You could, or you could get 2 sets and stack one on top of the other.
Yeah, that might.
That'd raise it up about that much. And
that might be about.
See,
enough.
look, yeah.
So again, another simple solution for getting it up to the appropriate height.
Right.
Let's see. So we've talked about safety. We've talked about putting grips and things on the back of your rulers. And did you kind of quickly showed those arrows, but those arrows are really neat for marking your cutting lines. You can also get this tape, highlighter tape. I think this stuff is by OmniGrid again, and
this is not by OmniGrid. I don't know.
I think this.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah,
this is.
And you can, and what you do
is
production
company.
You tear it off and you put it on your ruler to help you remember which line you're going to be using. Really, really helpful if you're cutting, like, say, 7/8 something.
Exactly. So here on this ruler, you can see, I've got one right here at 3 3/4, 1 and 3/4. So that I don't have to think about it when I'm cutting my fabric. Again, let's have some over here. There you go. I'm going to turn it over to this lighter side. I don't have to think about it when I am cutting. I'll just automatically go right there. So if this were a straight edge, I'll just cut it a straight edge. Oh, my rotary cutter wasn't. Okay, so if I wanted, and I'm cutting a bunch of them, and I didn't have my Stripology ruler.
Oh, wait a minute, you were cutting 1 3/4?
1 3/4, right there, thank you. 1 3/4, I would just go there. I wouldn't have to look for this little dash. I can look at this completely straight line that is made with my tape. There's also this kind that just comes in a dispenser, and it's kind of purpley, And you can see, you put it on there straight and you find, it's great for like 7/8, 3/8, 5/8.
Something
so that you're not counting all these little lines.
But even the 3/4, that's a dashed line on mine. So
right,
it's
so
nice
it would
to have
give you
a nice, straight, solid line to follow.
Right.
And they're in like, the kind I got are in bright neon type colors. So when you put them on your ruler, you can definitely see them. And,
right,
so that's a nice tool to have.
It is. Another thing is, if your eyes are starting to fail you or you need a little extra help, I bought these, and you know how Jennifer bought these and never used them. She just had to have them. Well, that's the way this is.
She bought these and
they're called magnifying lenses. I've never used them because I'm not old enough yet. I'll be getting there. You know, I am 65. I get a senior discount.
We all will be.
I do get the senior discount. But you open them up and they're little magnets. And they have a gripper around the edge. And let's say I'm cutting 1 5/8. So I know right there is my 1 5/8. And I'm going to cut a 1 5/8 inch square. So actually I'm going to be 5/8 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to be about right there. So, because...
And that's a little hard to see, frankly.
That's hard to see because the lines on my ruler are nowhere near there. I mean, I don't have anything. Now, if I had a square ruler, it would be okay because those lines would be there. But see, I'm on a rectangular ruler. So my arrow really isn't sufficient for that because it doesn't give me an intersection. So I'm going to take this. Shouldn't do that to your ruler, but you know, we're on TV or wherever we are.
She's making do.
Making do.
But
and
if I'd had scissors handy, she would have used that.
I'm just going to turn this over now. Cut the excess off. Like that. And now I have a place. I have a place to go. But if I couldn't see that very good, see how you just put that on there? That doesn't slip around. It's on there pretty good. See that? And I know I can just always go to my square. If I'm cutting a square with my rectangular ruler, I just put the edge of my fabric and I can see with this magnifier, I can see that really good. Mm-hmm. You see that? And now I can use my rectangular ruler, and I just did what she told me not to do, and I was getting ready to go like that, but safety first. So if I had my turning mat, I would have just turned it with my mat.
That's something where you would definitely want to use a rotating cutting mat.
And then cut there. Now Jennifer would have come here and cut because that's the way she works, but I don't mind cutting across the top. There's nothing over here for me to cut myself with. So cutting across the top, I have enough strength. I have enough control that I'm not going to slip. At least I haven't yet. And then cutting. So I will cut this way and this way. But I definitely would never cut that way. And I'd never definitely come in and cut that way, hoping my ruler being up here on my edge. That just is not going to happen. Yeah. That's scary. Yeah.
I would not do that.
So...
But those are really cool, and I'm finding myself...
If you're one of those people who have to have gadgets... Yeah, I've never used it. I've never used it, but not to say I won't, because you know how my
at some point you're gonna realize you can't see something.
Yeah, we're just showing you gadgets that we had at home that are supposed to help with your cutting.
Now, something I use when we talked about when we're cutting that we check off as we're cutting.
Yeah, our grocery list.
The grocery list. If you want to keep your fabrics organized, maybe they're in different sizes or whatever, and you can use these. These are called alpha biddies, and they're little plastic letters and numbers that you can use along with a little mini clip to clip to the fabrics that you've cut. Let's say, and this is my stack of fabrics, and it will correspond to a letter that I put in the pattern, so that I know that that's that size.
Yeah.
Real handy when you're doing paper piecing, because you'll have a lot of, you actually will have some letter on the foundation that will correspond to a particular. But also you can just do this for regular pattern cutting as well. If it helps you realize which pieces are which, then use something like this. And I do use these quite a lot. There's an expander set that I haven't bought yet, which gives you double letters and additional numbers. But
like AA, BB, CC.
Yeah, which again can come real handy for organizing. So once you cut, you want to organize what you've cut. So
I love to be organized.
I know.
Yeah.
I just do.
Before they had alphabeties, we used to take clothespins, and just with a marker, we would write the alphabet on the clothespin.
And that would work too.
Or 1, 2, 3 on the clothespin, and just close them, onto the amount of fabric that we were cutting.
I use these for all sorts of things.
I do too.
Organizing my blocks in a quilt, as I'm taking it back and forth to press or whatever. But the clothespin with the little marker will work just as well.
Yep.
And it's a little bit less expensive.
Now, how do you organize your rulers?
I have a ruler stand. Don't know if hopefully up above you can see. And it has little slots in it, so that helps me keep the my rulers handy, and that's what I use. I've got several of these. I got one upstairs at my station and one here.
I have about 9 of these.
If I could, I
love these.
I love them. I've also seen where people have one of those pegboard things, and they just have different pegs and they hang their rulers. That's a really great system, but you have to have wall space for that.
Yeah, does that take
You have to have a lot of wall space.
I have one on my floor.
I don't have that, so.
I have one on my floor right beside my cutting table.
Oh.
Because my big ones.
Yeah.
All my big rulers go on the floor. Like my Stripology ruler. Look at how tall this thing is. It's a pretty big size thing. So I just have one, and it leans up against my cutting table, and then they all have their own little home, my big tall
Mine is
ones.
up against a wall, because as you notice, when you get the taller ones, they will want to bend, and they'll want to take the whole stand with them.
Right.
But I love these suckers.
I have a little one
that
I keep. Yeah, I have one that I have at my cutting station, and then I also have one at my sewing station because I have a miniature cutting station at my sewing table.
So sometimes she's trimming up. You're trimming up units there.
Yeah, 1.5 inch ruler. Can you see that 1.5 inch ruler?
It's adorable.
All the way up to 24.5 inch square. That's how big the rulers come. And then, everything in between. So I really like this one because it sits at the desk, and it's for my smaller ones. And it just leans there, and I can have maybe 20 rulers in here because, my 2.5 inch ones. It's really, really nice. I forget. I mean, it's clover. It's not clover. It's probably omnigrid or something. I don't know.
I was going to say. I was wondering who made that.
And it also can hang on the wall.
Yeah.
It's got these little hangers, but I've never hung mine on the wall. I always just sit it over on my cutting surface.
Mine, I think, was just made by some gentleman who does his own woodworking. And,
that's nice, yeah.
So that's where I got mine.
Okay. If you didn't have any rulers
at all,
and you were just starting out on your quilting journey, which ruler would be the best ruler for you to get what measurement?
I have this is Creative Grinch.
Yay.
This is one specifically for cutting hexagons, but as you can see, it's hexagons with borders. One cut here like that.
So that's basically your starter cut.
Yes.
The piece you just cut is just a toss away.
That is right, and I just need to change. I'm going to use, make sure I got this right. Okay, if I want a perfect 60-degree triangle, I'm going to use the 60-degree line on the top edge, and I'm going to cut.
So the sausage.
Well, that would mean that all sides of the triangle are equal.
See that? Oh, that's so nice. Okay, we'll be right back.
We'll be right back. We'll start